Hello, my friend, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Daily. My name is Aaron Machbitz. I never, ever thought I would have to say this, but Stephen A. Smith might be joining the WWE for an angle this summer. There has been, it has been reported that an angle has been pitched for Stephen A. Smith to get involved with WWE this summer, and it is expected to happen to give his strong relationship, given his strong relationship with several TKO officials. Yes, you have heard that right. ESPN and First Take commentator Stephen A. Smith will be doing an angle with WWE. Again, never ever thought I would be saying that or having to discuss this. Apparently, Stephen A. Smith has some great relationships or strong relationships with some people in TKO who happen to be officials or decision makers. He obviously also works for ESPN, which has a partnership with WWE, and they think that whole thing would be great. Now, I'll give it to Stephen A. Smith. He's entertaining, he's charismatic, he has a lot of good energy, but those qualities don't automatically make you some sort of person who should be in WWE, whether as a manager, a mouthpiece. Maybe he'll crush it. I have no idea. But it just seems so like bad faith for TKO and WWE to keep having these fucking guys be brought into WWE when they can make superstars in-house, and ESPN and TKO would be happy with that because business would be good, but they're trying to bring all these other people in to promote First Take or to promote ESPN or to promote TKO, or just because he's a buddy and he's like, man, it'd be cool to be on WWE. All right, Stephen A. Smith, you got an angle. Like, get the fuck out of here with all this stuff. ESPN is said to be pleased and enthusiastic about his potential involvement with WWE. Now, him and Danhausen had a little interaction. Danhausen cursed him. Danhausen cursed the New York Knicks. And then recently, Stephen A. Smith was on Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast talking about that a little bit. And so, obviously, now they're starting to warm Stephen A. Smith up to the WWE audience. But I read a very interesting comment on X saying everyone outside of the United States has absolutely no idea who Stephen A. Smith is. He's an ESPN commentator talking about American sports in America, and everyone outside of that, WWE's massive international audience, has no idea who he is. So when you think about bringing stars into WWE, you want to bring massive global stars. Now, I don't know if people outside of WWE or outside of the United States know Pat McAfee that well, but they certainly know Jelly Roll and maybe Lil Yachty, just because music kind of expands past the United States. But Stephen A. Smith is almost exclusively talking about sports that are dominated in America: basketball, football, baseball, things of that nature. He's not really talking about soccer, right, which is dominated internationally, which is the most popular sport in the whole world. And so I saw that interesting take on X, and then someone was like, I think I even tweeted it out saying, fuck it, just put Stephen A. Smith in the main event of WrestleMania 43 in Saudi Arabia and ruin it like they have the last 3 years with Travis Scott, with Pat McAfee and Jelly Roll, and then now with Stephen A. Smith. I can't really even come up with any scenarios where Stephen A. Smith would fit great with someone. Maybe he does a little angle with The Miz and Danhausen and Kit Wilson, because those guys are extremely entertaining and they can literally make anything work regardless. I wouldn't mind Stephen A. Smith maybe taking a bump. He's an old man. And so you really worry about him hitting in the back of his head if he doesn't do the bump properly, because bumping in training, which is where you learn how to fall, is much different than bumping in real time with another human being kind of hitting you and you having to tuck your chin and make sure you're safe. And so don't know if he's going to be bumping or moving around or flying through the ropes or anything like that as sort of a manager mouthpiece role. I'm not sure what WWE's angle for him would be, but I'm not excited about it. I can watch Stephen A. Smith on First Take, his podcast, and I can get enough of his yelling, his screaming, and his outrage bait that I don't need him to come to WWE. And I almost guarantee you that most WWE fans feel the same way as me. But like usual, and per the course, TKO and ESPN and WWE literally don't give a fuck about what the fans think. And that's an issue moving forward. And so, again, Stephen A. Smith plans to, or their plans for him to be involved in some angle this summer. And then another story regarding some of the WWE releases that had happened. Is said to be going around that someone in TKO isn't a fan of darker characters in WWE. Here's a quote. I don't know if there's a pattern, but I can tell you there's been a story bouncing around among talents that someone in the TKO realm isn't a fan of the darker characters, and that's been the blame placed on why the Wyatts, Aleister Black, Zelina, etc. were all cut. One person even suggested to me that Undertaker being the American badass and not the dead man in appearances is proof of that outlook. Very interesting. I have no way to prove that this is correct, but the story has made the rounds this past week among numerous people we've spoken with. Whether there's something to it or just assumptions, I can't verify at this juncture. I guess we'll see if and when WWE leans back into supernatural and dark characters. Again, that's from Mike Johnson of Pro Wrestling Insider. Again, just like Mike, right? No verification, don't know if that's true, but I like that kind of assumption of kind of leaning towards what's the actual decision as to why the Wyatts and Aleister Black were released. Danhausen, you would say, is a darker character, but it's all a comedy act. I'm not a fan of Zelina or Aleister Black. I think it sucks when people lose their job, but people lose their job all the time, and so I'm not going to miss Aleister Black or Zelina Vega from WWE, and at this point, Aleister Black has most likely burned every bridge humanly possible, and there are multiple people in AEW who don't want him back, so I don't know where he goes. Maybe TNA, no idea. And I thought the Wyatts, their run had kind of come to their end. I was never really a fan of the whole Wyatt Six. I don't love those type of characters. I loved Bray Wyatt. May his memory be a blessing. And I thought he was fantastic. And an extension of him to honor his memory, I think, was fine. But I think all of that shit ran its course. And there's only two people in the Wyatt Six that can actually wrestle. I think Joe Gacy is a very solid professional wrestler, and Nikki Cross is a very solid professional wrestler. Dexter Lumis, Eric Rowan, and Bo Dallas aren't great wrestlers, and they've never done anything with their time in WWE. I mean, they've been there for so long. So I see Nikki Cross, I see Joe Gacy actually doing something post WWE, but maybe the rest of them will surprise me as well. I have no idea. But that's an interesting sort of outlook because right now you don't really see those sort of dark supernatural type characters in WWE, which is wild because you have to have at least one or two because WWE fans really like that. They like the mystique. They like the sort of the character about it. If you're going to take away all the great characters from WWE, what's the point? You just have a couple dudes in underwear pretending to fight and there's no intensity, there's no story, there's no mystique, there's no mystery behind it, there's no allure. And some of those things are really, really important when it comes to building strong, powerful WWE characters that kids and everyone can attach to and invest in, which makes the wrestling that much better. So hopefully that's not actually the case. Hopefully WWE can build up some cooler stars, some more supernatural type dark characters that some fans really, really, really like. And when done really well, like Bray Wyatt, it's some of the best stuff in the whole world and some of the best stuff that the company has ever produced. So those are kind of two interesting takes right now with Stephen A. Smith joining WWE potentially this summer and someone in the TKO realm potentially not liking dark or supernatural characters, which could have been the reason why Aleister Black and the Wyatt Six were released. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Lots of love. Cheers.